afternoon. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us on our Customer Spotlight webinar today. My name is Nicole, and I will be your moderator for the day. In today's session, though, we have Damian Guerin from Aleut Management Services, and he is going to provide us with some background in regards to his organization and walk us through their onboarding journey and what it took, to come to the point in working with Silk Road. So we are going to allow everybody to enter in questions through either the chat box or there is a question box. And what we will do is when the presentation is completed, we will then dive into a question and answer session. So go ahead, send those questions through, and we will make sure we get them addressed. So as many as you know, Silk Road is a cloud-based talent management software company, and our passion here is really helping our customers create the best employee experience possible. And we do that through our suite of talent management solutions, which is what we refer to as the Life Suite, is what you can see here on the screen. And the Life Suite contains tools for talent acquisition, talent development, and talent administration. And today, our main focus is going to really solely be around the talent acquisition piece, specifically around onboarding. So without further ado, I am going to pass things over to Damian and get our session started. So Damian, I'm going to change you over to the presenter.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Let me see what happens here when I click on Show My Screen. What can you see there?
I can see a website.
You can see a website? I can't see. I cannot see the website. Are you see the presentation or not?
No, I see. It says,
okay.
Oops, page not found.
Okay, it looks like I need to bring up the presentation myself, and I don't have it up right now. Could you?
Okay, why don't I share my screen again, and you just let me know when to change the slides.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, hold on
Okay.
just one moment, and I will get that presentation up.
I have it back to my screen if you'd like to do it that way.
Okay. Okay, I believe that I have it up ready to go, so if you want to tell me if you can see the presentation, and I'll get started.
Okay, so just you'll get a notification to show your screen.
There we go. Now, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, modern technology at work. Well, thank you very much, Nicole, for this opportunity to speak with you and with the folks who are on the phone. And good morning and good afternoon to everyone as well. And first, I'd like to introduce myself. I'd like to introduce myself, and then I'll tell you about Aleut. Talk to you about what I call the HR mission, which is around what I call E2C2. And then I'll talk to you about how Silk Road helps to facilitate value for the organization. Now, first of all, again, my name is Damian Guerin, and I am the Vice President of Human Resources for Aleut Management Services. And human resources is my vocation, and as I'll talk to you about the subject about E2C2, and as an HR professional, I'm really glad to be able to speak to you all now, because what I want to do is I want to help you be most effective as well. And as an HR professional, it's all about serving others, and I'm really glad to be here. So I've been in human resources for a long time. I've worked within manufacturing with such companies like NCR Corporation in the semiconductor area. I've worked in oil and gas with large companies like Halliburton. And I've worked in the systems integration area with a large company. You may know this company, Raytheon. And then I've also worked in small companies, in software companies, and also with Aleut, which is a relatively small company. We have about 500 employees, and I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. So that's a quick introduction about myself. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I do consider myself a human resources subject matter expert, and I have a certification through the HRCI as the Senior Professional in Human Resources, and also I have a certification in Total Rewards through World at Work called the CCP. So I just want to give you that background about myself. Now about Aleut, and how you say the name is Aleut. And you may know the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. And so Aleut Management Services, we are one of 8 subsidiaries of the Aleut Corporation. And the Aleut Corporation is an Alaskan Native corporation, which was established under the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971, where in the early 70s there was a lot of oil exploration going on in Alaska, and the United States settled with the Alaskan natives and gave them some land and almost $1 billion. And since that time, the Alaskan natives have invested their money in small companies such as Aleut Management Services. And the Aleut Corporation is one of 13 regional corporations, and the Aleut Corporation has about 3,000 shareholders, and these are people who live in Alaska, and the dividends we deliver to them help them buy their oil for their long winters there in Alaska. And so as someone who works for these folks, I'm really glad to be able to do that, to help them in that way, because the people that I work for are not the Wall Street shareholders. These are actually people who live on the land. So that really provides a really nice connection for me in the work that I do. So the Aleut Corporation, as I mentioned, Aleut Management Services is one of 8 subsidiaries, and then AMS, as we call it, Aleut Management Services. We have 8 LLCs as part of our business, and the Aleut Management Services, we are a government contractor, all for the federal government, and the type of work that we are in, you see on that slide, is in the area of operations and maintenance, engineering services, IT, and construction. And the majority of our business is in operations and maintenance, and about 80–85% of our business. And a little key part about that, just so you know, which adds some complexity about which I'll talk about in a little bit, is that because we're in this area of operations and maintenance where we provide maintenance on government facilities, such as we have a large contract at Fort Belvoir in Maryland, in Virginia, where we do everything from cutting the grass to civil engineering to repairs and services. So in the area of O&M, we are subject to the Service Contract Act, the Davis-Bacon Act, and various other federal requirements. And then another piece about that is that about 83% of our population is unionized, so which adds another layer of complexity to our business. And as a government contractor, nowadays, if you're aware about how the federal government is operating, is that they're becoming increasingly more cost conscious, where when they compete contracts, they're looking for low cost in the firm fixed price area, which really means to us is that we really have to have very efficient, as we call it, our general administration needs to be very efficient in how we do our business so that we can compete and win contracts. In addition to that, working with the federal government, there's a lot of different levels of bureaucracy, and this can be challenging to our efficiency as well. So that's a quick overview about AMS, Aleut Management Services. Another piece about AMS is that we are located in 12 states and about 24 different project sites, and which includes Alaska and Hawaii. And anytime, and I'll tell you about this a little bit more, is that at any point, once we win a contract, we could have a different location anywhere in the United States. And we have had contracts in other parts of the world as well, such as Puerto Rico and Kuwait and so on, wherever a government facility is, so we have operated internationally as well. So the next subject that I'd like to speak about is this idea about E2C2. And as I talk about human resources, I talk about human resources, the mission being around delivering E2C2, what I call the efficiency, the effectiveness, the capability and capacity of people to meet and exceed business requirements. And when I think of E2C2, I think of another terminology you may think of when you talk about people is also known as, or AKA, the productivity of people. And really, E2C2 is all about, E2C2 is a function of knowledge and skills plus engagement plus and minus behavior. And so when I think of knowledge and skills, particularly in the arena that we are in, it's all about how do we deliver the right skills at the right time and do that efficiently. Again, very efficiently is what we need to have here in our line of work. The other part about that equation is engagement. And you know, you've heard that saying, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So when we are out recruiting people and bringing new contracts on, it's all about how do we connect people to the business very quickly and very effectively, and show people that we care about them. And we do that through our onboarding processes and our performance development and feedback. And one part that I will mention on this chart is all about behaviors, but you know, when we are bringing people on board, we want people to know that we care about them, and we want to set an example for them about how they should behave. And so as they come on board and they see how we use our processes and systems, and that goes to you know, model the behavior so that people know how they're supposed to behave or how they should behave in our company. So when it comes to delivering that E2C2, as I mentioned, some of the challenges that we encounter here in Aleut Management Services as a government contractor is that in the federal government contracting arena, contracts will be announced that they may be coming out for bid, and they could be announced a year ahead of time, and or even 2 years ahead of time. And then it's up to Aleut to understand those contracts, and then once they become live, we develop our bids, and then when we win, we could acquire hundreds of people at one time. And it's like acquiring a new company, actually. And when we do that, it also involves how do you bring on these new people into a new culture. And we really want to be able to minimize those distractions for these people. So, for example, in a typical contract acquisition, when we win, we might have 60 to 90 days to acquire the people that are already on this contract. And you know, this all has to be in alignment with the Service Contract Act, for example, and you've probably heard of, you may have heard, if you're familiar with government contracting, the executive order about non-displacement of qualified workers. So we have to consider that in our recruiting. But what we do is, in order to bring on hundreds of people at one time very quickly, and even though we have 60 to 90 days to do that, we've actually acquired a contract, and this was one, as I mentioned Fort Belvoir, for example. We acquired 130 people in 8 days, and we can't do that just through the usual paper processes. We must do it electronically. And so we go through a lot of pre-work ahead of time, when we compete for contracts, and we'll send out notices to the incumbents and tell them how our processes work and that it's electronic. And even when we do that, when we talk about O&M, operations and maintenance, and we have unionized people, and these are tradespeople, by the way, who might be mowing lawns or shoveling snow. Some of these people, actually, when we did Fort Belvoir, didn't even know how to use a computer. So we're doing some change management even when we acquire a new contract, and we actually had to train people about how to use a computer. But nonetheless, it's all about how we use our systems, and certainly the open hire system that we use through Silk Road has been really efficient for us, and people can go in and apply for a job and do it really efficiently. And we have been able to edit our processes and even the forms that we have in there so it's easy to use, and people can then apply efficiently. And as I mentioned, as people go through this process, then they experience the Aleut culture about how we treat people with dignity and respect, and we have this easy-to-use process for them to use. And then, of course, when we have a process such as this, the Silk Road process, it does facilitate that E2, C2 for other users, other stakeholders, such as executives who need to go in and take a look at applicants, or supervisors who do the same thing, go in and look at applicants and then decide what to do with these applicants. And not only once we bring these people in through open hire, then they are able to move. We do move that through red carpet, and we are working right now to connect our Deltek system, which is typically used by government contractors, to our other Silk Road products through a product called Heartbeat. But we're working on that right now. And so as we are doing our processes, it's really important for us to be looking at this through the continuous improvement, process improvement lenses. And that is that we are always, one way or another, typically tweaking our systems, whether it's open hire, whether it's red carpet, and then whether it's a Wingspan where we do our performance development and feedback. And we do treat these processes, like our talent acquisition and our onboarding, as business processes. And they're business processes just like any of our other business processes, whether it's in purchasing or safety or security, which enable business success. And that's how we've actually branded it within the company, and that's how our entire organization looks at these systems and treats them, so that we do have buy-in across the organization. So that's been really very important for us, and which has helped us to create that value throughout the organization. And I should mention that when I started with the company, which was in October of 2011, the company had already purchased open hire, red carpet, and Wingspan, but the company was not actually using red carpet nor Wingspan. The company was only using open hire simply to post jobs. And maybe you all will have some questions later on, but I wasn't involved in the implementation of the systems, but I certainly know the pain of not doing it correctly. And nonetheless, right now, even we continue to go through edits and tweaks of our processes in order to make sure that these systems are working the best for us. So that when we are looking at our entry point, such as talent acquisition, what this system does for us is not only it brings in the people through the applicant process, but it also provides for us a lot of data warehousing that we need, particularly as a government contractor, for things like applicant management, the affirmative action planning. We use the various offer letters through OpenHire. One of the things that I was able to do when I first started to build up OpenHire was through our screening process. We do drug screening and background screening. So when I first got here, what they were doing is they just had OpenHire, and then they were going to a different, I think we're using LabCorp at the time, but now we use HireRight. Just go to LabCorp and they would do the drug screening and background separately. But through OpenHire, naturally you can go in there and build your process where you can generate the background and drug screening right through OpenHire as just another action. And that really has been able to save time in the whole applicant process. And then finally there's the connections to the various job boards, which has been really efficient. Instead of going out to these various sites separately, you can connect people to the job boards. You can connect your jobs to the job boards through OpenHire, which has saved a lot of time. So basically, when I got here, and we had to go through some organizational changes anyway, the HR team was almost twice the size it is now. And I think through the various systems improvements, although we had to make those organizational changes, we have been able to be really efficient. The HR team has been really able to be efficient through using these systems. And it provides that efficiency also for the stakeholders. And so it really has delivered that E2C2 that we needed. And then, of course, once we have the entry point through talent acquisition, we are able to roll people right from OpenHire to Red Carpet. And we always stress to these people that we're bringing on board, typically it's the large contracts where we give instructions to people on how to complete their application and they go do that. But we also have, we do hire people individually as well. But it's really important for people to complete all the data within OpenHire, because then that feeds into Red Carpet, which will then we will use to go to through Heartbeat to Deltek. But nonetheless, this is all paperless, and it creates some really nice efficiencies for us. And I think I remember we hired he was a wing commander at Schriever Air Force Base, which is here in Colorado Springs. And he was really impressed by our systems. He's an iPad guy. And again, he was really impressed by the company that we had these systems and that he could do his application, do all of his onboarding via his iPad. And it was really efficient for him. And I think that created a lot of trust for an incoming guy, such a high-level guy, incoming to our company. And he always tells people about that experience and how nice that was. So having that sort of capability has been really positive for us. And then finally, when it comes to our data management, I think that once we have Heartbeat done, we're going to be able to move data to and from Deltek back to OpenHire, Red Carpet, and Wingspan. And of course, we use Wingspan, as I mentioned, for our goal setting and performance feedback. And we're just about finished with our feedback process for this year. And I should mention that one thing about Wingspan, again, is it's a nice system as well. And I've worked with several performance, goal setting, and feedback systems previously. And again, in that one, just like Red Carpet or OpenHire, once you define your processes, you can edit those processes and look at it as a continuous improvement opportunity and edit those steps and make it really efficient. And so, for example, the first time we did the performance feedback process, we actually had a one-over manager review. We don't have that anymore because the organization has matured such that people know how to use the process. The one-over manager believes that they don't need to approve these, the feedback, and we've been able to streamline that even further and create some efficiencies for the organization. So, the continuous improvement process has been really positive for us. And so that has created this ability for us to be cost competitive when we are bidding for federal contracts. As I mentioned, things have moved in the federal government quite considerably where it's all about low cost, technically acceptable, or low cost, best value types of contracts in the first firm fixed price arena, where the extent to which our G&A is as low as possible, that will help us to win. And then it's all about how do we improve our processes, our systems, and our capabilities in our people in order to, be most cost effective. So, that's a quick overview of what we have going on here, and how we've been able to build our systems using the Silk Road products to deliver that E2 C2. And so I don't know, Nicole, if we're ready to have questions, I'm ready to answer any questions.
Great. One of the questions that came through, which is one that I can address, is there were a lot of people asked if this presentation will be available for download, and yes, it will be. I have recorded this session, so once I have it uploaded and set up into our system, it will be available to everybody by the end of the week, which you will receive a notification on that as well. And Damien, I'll go ahead and I will change over and I'll just show my screen.
Okay.
So I can get that taken care of. But the next question that we do have is a question around knowing what you know now. What 3 things would you have done prior to the beginning of your system configuration or customization so that your outcomes or the overall process could be better?
Okay. And I can think of 2 things right off the top of my head. I don't know if I can think of 3. But as I mentioned, I was not involved in the implementation of the Silk Road products. But as I said, when I did come on, and I did realize that I think that the way that the systems were configured was not really optimum. And so what I would suggest is, number one, think of your processes and systems, even when you decide to purchase a system from Silk Road, is to think of it as a continuous improvement process and understand that you will need to change your processes, the way you do things within Open Hire or Red Carpet or Wingspan, whatever the case might be. So just have that in your mind that you're going to do that. Then, of course, before you take on a system or decide what you're going to do and what kind of system you're going to need, of course, define and document your existing processes. With the feedback of all your stakeholders or your representatives or maybe a subset of your stakeholders. You need to really define and document those existing processes. And of course, the next thing is define the process improvements with your stakeholders. What would they like to see differently? And be able to measure that ROI, the return on investment, and then have a plan on how you're going to implement those process improvements. Because, again, thinking of it as a continuous improvement process, I believe that you shouldn't wait to have everything, everything ready to go before you press the button to launch, because it's a continuous improvement process. I think if you go to your stakeholders and you get the buy-in of, okay, here's what our process is going to look like now, here's what it's going to be able to do now, and then as we move through time, here's what we're going to do to make things, to improve things. We're going to have this sort of capability on this date, and this capability on this date, and here's how we're going to bring people along and facilitate that change. So, and then of course, you got to think about future requirements. So maybe I'm up to 4 now. You got to think about future requirements, because I think in our case, you know, we use Deltek, which is a, it's not very friendly. I don't know if there's anybody on Deltek on this call or not, but it's not very friendly. But nonetheless, we are working on a solution with Silk Road through Heartbeat in order to provide that connection. So I'm not sure if people really thought through that as to how we're going to move data back and forth from our financial system, our HRIS, which it's our HRIS right now, Deltek is, and we're going to make Heartbeat our system of record. But I don't know if people really thought about that, about how they're going to move that data back and forth. So those are some of the things that I would do differently, and so that things would could be better.
Great, thank you. There are some other questions. These might be more that I will be able to address. In regards to, there's a question around where can we get information on Heartbeat. That's also known as our Silk Road HRMS system, Christy, and what I can do is I can send you over some information and get you in touch with the sales rep that would be aligned within for your organization. So I will take down your information and get that for you. And then the next question is in regards to, does the talent development and talent admin HRMS products integrate with most payroll systems? Christina, that's a great question. In regards to that, we do integrate with some payroll systems. It depends on what your payroll system is and what you're looking to have integrated specifically with the talent development and the core HR system. So what I can, or if that's something that you are interested in looking at in regards to integration, what you'd want to do is speak with the sales rep that would be aligned within your organization from Silk Road and be able to talk through that in a little bit more detail. So Christina, if that is something that you would like somebody to reach out to you on, just send me a chat through the box here and just let me know, and I can get that set up for you. And Christy, I did get that information on for Wingspan as well. Okay. I am just writing those names down. All right. Well, there have been no other questions that, oh, yes, there will be a downloaded version that will be available in regards to this presentation today. So that will be out by the end of the week, and everybody will be notified when that is available. All right. Well, it looks like there are no other questions that have come through, Damien. So I want to thank you very much. I do appreciate your time as well, and for taking the time to put this together and speak with us and share your experience. We really do appreciate it. And everybody on the call, thank you again for your time, and I hope that everybody has a great rest of your day. Oh, wait, we do actually have a question. Damien, what process did you go through to incorporate drug screening and background checks?
Okay. So the way we did that is, well, as I mentioned, we already had a provider that already existed for us. And, naturally when as a new guy, you come in, you take a look at your providers, and we just decided to change things to HireRight. And basically, when I'm not sure how I discovered that I could connect HireRight to Open Hire. It may have been, I think I may have seen the drop down. I didn't even think of calling Silk Road to see if that could work. And I just called them up and I said, hey, you know, how do we connect HireRight to Silk Road? And they said, oh, we do this all the time. And it was simple getting HireRight to, Silk Road to set it up. And it was relatively painless. And now we just, like I said, we go through the actions in Open Hire and click on screening, and it takes us right to the form. It automatically fills in the HireRight information based upon what's in Open Hire already, and we might click one or two other boxes and send it off. And a person gets a notice from HireRight about where to go do their dry screen, and it sends it right to HireRight. They do the, and so our background with HireRight is all electronics. None of that, unless we need to do something more sophisticated. You can do a lot more, searches, but it's all clicking boxes, and it's really fast. And then we'll get a notice into Open Hire about the results. Of course, then we can go to HireRight and look at those individually as well. So that's basically how it works.
And a follow-up question to that is, do you require a chain of custody form like LabCorp?
Yes. So how this works is that we set that up separately with HireRight. And the capability through Open Hire just sends us to HireRight. And we have the form built into Open Hire where the person gives us the permission and so on, and then that satisfies the requirement in HireRight for the chain of custody. And then the other part about, in HireRight is that some of our people, they can't do this electronically, so they'll have to use a paper copy, and we can do that electronically through HireRight. So yeah, so it does require that chain of custody. Anything else, Nicole?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And then I wanted to mention to everybody out there that if you wanted to connect with me later on and you have any further questions, I'd be glad to help out. As I mentioned, HR being my vocation, I want to help other people be efficient and effective as well. And I am on LinkedIn, so we can connect that way as well.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And there was another question that I addressed to Michelle. So Michelle, I can get some information in regards to that for you in regards to the integration between our Silk Road recruiting / Open Hire and Red Carpet / onboarding, so we can get that information over to you as well. All right, well, I think this time we're good.
All right.
I don't see anything else that has come through, so thank you again, Damien, and thank you everybody on the call for joining and interacting with us, and we hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye now.